Hello, everybody. This is Chris Butler with Rusty Barn. We're very excited to welcome you to Wild Wednesday Live. This is presented, of course, by the Quilt Craft and Sewing Festival. We're very, very close to being able to do live in-person shows, but until then, we really need your support. Thank you so much for all the support you've given us. Our vendors count on it. That's how they're staying in business until we get back to events, and us too, frankly. We hope that you'll make our vendor mall your first stop in all your shopping needs and that you'll continue to tune in each week for the show. Thanks again, and we hope you enjoy this week's episode of Wild Wednesday Live, and we'll see you in the mall. Thanks.
I always love to see Chris's little introduction. All right, we'd like to welcome you to Wild Wednesday Live. I'm your host this week for this episode, and I'm Beth Watts from Fabric Chicks. I want to remind you, first of all, if you ever miss an episode, you can always see them on our YouTube channel, which is Quilt Craft and Sew Mall. So it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen, so you should be able to remember that. You can like us, and it will pop up and remind you if you've when we have a new one. Today we have live questions and answers at the very end. So stay tuned, and all of the presenters are going to come back to answer your questions. So you can just type them on the type them in, and we'll get to those. First up, I would like to welcome Monica from Monica's Quilt and Bead Creations. Hi, Monica.
Beth.
How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Good. Where's your shop?
I'm located in Palm Desert, California. The weather's fabulous out here for all of you in the cold. It's 79 degrees.
Oh my gosh, my dream come true. That's like almost swimsuit weather.
Yeah. Well, I was in a tank top and shorts hiking, so it's lovely.
Oh, fun. All right, so I think you've got a bunch of fun things to show us today.
We do. Okay. So our first one that we did a couple weeks ago was a disaster because I had no idea what we were doing or how to do this, but I think we've got this down. So I've got some help with me, and we're going to work through this. What I'm going to show you today it's a book called Baffling Your Quilts. This is a fabulous book if you're interested in doing a quilt from start to finish and quilting it yourself. And I'm going to show you how, and making charity quilts using all of your leftover pieces of batting. I save all of these pieces of batting, and I cut them into little strips like this because I can use different size strips with this quilt I'm going to show you. And for my larger strips, I use this product called Heat and Press. It's for sale up on our website. And what you want to do is you want to, I think I have a little piece here. Look at that. You can fuse your batting pieces together so that you can make a bigger piece of batting. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's what this does. But for the most part, I save all of my little batting pieces. I cut them into these little strips, and I'm going to show you how I use them now. So the first quilt I'm going to show you how to do is this one here. This is one using strips. I simply have strips that I'm using. And I have different strips for the front and different strips for the back. So this was a collection. This quilt is going to be shipped to New York tomorrow from one of my son's friends for his baby. And the other quilt that we have made up out of this book is a quilt using different size strips. So you can use different size strips in yours. That's why I told you with my batting, if they're not the right size, I still use them. So, and this is the front of this quilt. In this book, she also tells you how to use squares. You're simply going to make a row of squares and do your row 1 and 2 and put it together and continue like what I'm going to show you now. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take row 1. So this is row 1 here. Let's see. It's going to come up down here, Letty. Okay. There's row 1. I've got row 1. Whoops, she's trying to get the camera angle right. There we go. So this is row 1, front and back. This is row 2, front and back. and this is my batting. So the first thing we're going to do is take row 1. This is the back. We're going to put the batting in it. This is the front, and we're going to layer it. This is row 1. I'm going to take row 2, right sides together with row 1 on the top, right sides together on the back, and I'm going to stitch this here so it will look like this. Once I've stitched it, I will open it up. Once I've opened it up this way, then I'm going to do my quilting. I'm going to stitch this side an eighth of an inch, and then I'm going to do approximately a quarter of an inch. So now my row 1 is completely done. With row 2, I'm going to stick my little piece of batting inside here. I'm going to get my row 3. I'm going to do right sides together, right sides together. I'm going to stitch along here so that it's going to look like this when I'm done. I've stitched along. I will open this up just like we did on row 2. I'm going to do my quilting here, and then I'm going to stick my batting in and then do the same to do the whole row. I'm going to actually show you how to do this on a larger one, but what if I want borders on this? You're going to do the same thing. Right sides together on the front, right sides together on the back. I'm going to stitch this right down here, open it up, and then put my binding in. So now I have a quilt that has the borders on already, and we'll stitch a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch there. So this is a really easy way of doing it, but now I'm going to show you with the long one. So this quilt is going to get done and go to Orange County this weekend for my other son's best friend's baby. Everybody's having babies. So this is the length of the fabric here. And as you can see, I stitched an eighth of an inch on here on the top. And then I've stitched my 1/4 inches as I go along. This next row is ready. I have my fabrics here ready to go, all layered. So in here, I have my batting. There's my batting. There's my back side. Here's my batting. Here's my front side. So I'm going to take this next pile because it has my front, back, and my batting. I get it all ready because I was using leftover pieces of fabric from another quilt I did. So right sides together, I'm going to put it on the front. Right sides together, I'm going to put it on the back. Whoops. Right sides together. And of course, you're going to do a good job. And then you're going to stitch all the way along. Once it's done, you fold over, take your back side, fold it over, and then insert your batting. That's how easy this is to do with these quilts. And it's all in this book here called Baffling Your Quilt. And it is available on our website. There are other projects in this book. This one here is if you can see that, it's a boxed quilt. There's a table topper, and there's a box quilt number 2. So all of these can be done doing the technique that I just showed you. So we're going to move on to some other fun things in my shop. Our weekly special that's up on my website right now is this quilt here. It is a Laura Heine technique quilt, and this is for sale on our website, the kit. The kit has enough to where you can do at least 2 or 3 of these. That's how much fabric is in it, and it's 25% off this week. Our other special that we have on our website, so you'll need to go check out our website, are these these yard bundles. There are 5 1-yard pieces of batiks, and these retail for $50. It's $10 a yard. And these colorways are up on our website. So you just need to go to the website and take a look at some of these beautiful colors. 5 1-yard pieces for $10. Some other things that I'm going to show you over here are Friday special with Rusty Barnes. Up on the website will be, this is a panel quilt, and this will be 20% off starting this Friday. So if you need something really fast for Valentine's Day, all you need to do is quilt this quilt. Some other quilts that we have that are absolutely beautiful, that are good gifts, is this quilt here. This quilt is called Wild West. We do have kits available. It's very easy. They have 10-inch squares inside here. We do have backing to go with it if you're interested. Llamas have been very popular. This is a llama quilt. We do have a kit available for this up on our website. And last but not least, we have our caterpillar quilt. We do have panels available and or kits available. So I'd like to thank you for joining us out here in Palm Desert today. And we'll see you next time.
Perfect. Thank you, Monica. I hope you stick around and join us for the questions and answers, because I do have a couple of questions that ladies have typed in.
Okay, good.
Perfect. And then also, just so you girls know, Monica has donated one of the Baffling Your Quilts books. So that's going to be one of the door prizes, and we will announce the code word shortly. Not yet, but shortly. All right. Thank you, Monica. We'll see you in a little bit. Okay. And Carol Ellen, I'd like to tell you that you can always go to our YouTube channel. It's Quilt Craft So Mall, and you can watch all of them in case you had mentioned that there's some buffering issues. So just go to our YouTube channel. It's always there, always available. And Judy Colby, thank you so much for sharing. As you guys know, in this kind of pandemic world, we are, all of us quilters and crafters and sewers and shop owners are reliant on you sharing all of these fun times with your friends. So be sure to share and spread the word, and hopefully we'll have shows again very, very soon. I hear they're in the works, coming up very, very soon, sooner than we think, I hope. All right, so I'm not going to tell you the code word yet, but I would like to welcome Linda McGehee from Gee's Designs. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Beth, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
You know, Monica said she has gorgeous weather. They told us that we might get snow in Louisiana tomorrow night.
Yikes. I know,
Yeah,
snow is everywhere right now. Yes.
Yeah. So, Monica, I'm jealous.
Yes, for sure.
So, Monica, I think that's a dynamite idea, the way you put together those strips. And if you didn't want to make anything real big, I think it'd be a nice way to make a tote.
Perfect. Tell us how.
Okay. Well, I didn't see Monica until just a couple of minutes ago, but I'm going to show you some things about zippers that might help you out. Might not necessarily on that particular tote that I'm thinking of with her pieces, but I've heard so much about negative about zippers and how hard they are, and you know they really are easy if you have the right tips. So zippers have been around forever. We have a National Zipper Day coming up in April, I believe it is, but those were just your standard zippers. We have all sorts of fun zippers. There's zippers that have fun tape, the coil that looks like metal, but it's actually a nylon coil. I have different colors of teeth that you can mix and match. I'm going to show you how to do that shortly. There's multicolored coil, more tape, just in rhinestone zippers. There's all sorts of ways that you can play with zippers, and there's a much better variety than there used to be. And for the past several years, I've been working mostly with those larger zippers. My attitude is get it longer, you can always cut it off. And many of the zippers on our website are separating zippers, or you might hear them called open end or jacket zippers. And you can take the zippers and make a jacket out of them and cut it off at the top if you want to, if it happens to be too long. You can cut zippers, that's not a problem, but you cannot add the part to the bottom where you would make a zipper opening. So just bear in mind, and on our website, which is geese.com, there are a couple of little tutorials about zippers to give you some ideas of different ways to play with them and other ways to insert. But right before Christmas, I got this brainstorm of playing with just the small zippers. And so I have about 3 new patterns out that came out in the fall. This is your normal little shirt or skirt or pant zipper. It's referred to as a number 3. That's the size, the width of the zipper coil. Number 3 is about 1/8 of an inch. The other ones that I was showing you that are now on the floor are about 1/4 of an inch, and that's a number 5. That's just zipper lingo. I like the different colors of zippers, but I find that you can't get quite the right match a lot of times. So what I started doing years ago was mixing the colors, and I was using separating zippers, so that was easy to do. But nowadays, what I'm going to do is take an awl, and if you can see this little stop that's on the bottom, I'm going to use an awl, and I'm going to pull this down a little bit so that I think you can see it better. Hopefully I'm not setting myself up for trouble. But this tool is referred to as an awl. There's a really, really, really sharp point there. I use it as a third hand sometimes by the sewing machine, but the way I'm using it today is to remove that stop. This is a closed-in zipper, and you want to do this very carefully. Just put the awl right in the center underneath the stop, and then make sure this stop hits the trash can. Now, wouldn't you know, I get one that's a little bit testy. So, come on, Nellie. Usually they just pop off, except when you're in front of a crowd. Come on, Nellie, come off. There we go. Then I'll do another one. Maybe this one will come out just a little bit faster because I need to have 2. And I have already removed, see how easy that one was? Okay. I have already removed the stops up at the top, so there are no stops there. What I'm going to do is take the slider off. And this throws lots of folks into a panic, but it's okay. And I'm going to pull the zipper apart. And it is best if, let's do one in color so you can see it better. It is best if you leave this little piece of zipper tape on. That is your friend. It's easier to put the slider on the coil with that little bit of tape there. So I'm going to mix a black and the jade color together. These are number 3 coil zippers, and you can tell a coil from one that has teeth in that the coil is on the top, the bottom is flat. You can only see tape. Okay? Now, if you would take your slider, let's just put a yellow one on here for the fun of it since I have it. When you look at the bottom, there is a flat, or the back side of the slider. There is a flat part and there is a rounded part. The rounded part is considered the top, and you move forward. So we're going to take the slider and put that little ridge that happens to be on the zipper tape in the zipper slider. Hold it with your finger and thumb, and then take the other strip and slide it in and zip it up. Now, wasn't that easy? Okay, now I wasn't expecting this to happen. It does happen occasionally. what's happened in this instance is the tape was, when it went through the machine to make, was a little, was pulled. It's like a bad tension or something or other. So I'm not going to keep these two together. So let me double check. I didn't know that was going to happen to me, but I'm glad it did. So y'all can see it's not a panic. We're just not going to use those mixed. So I'm going to see what the yellow does. If there's a slight twist to it, it's no big deal on the little bags that we're making. If I were making a garment, of course, I would want it to be, see the difference? This one's nice and straight. So this is going to go in the project rather than the other one. I used the jade with navy and it was just nice and flat. Now, I'm going to do one other trick, and that is to take the slider off. So now I have the tape put together and it's closed all the way from one end all the way to the other. And I'm going to put the slider back on. And the reason I'm doing this is so I don't have, here we go. We're going to slide it right back on. I have a closed end on both ends. So I can put this in my project and the ends will be nice and closed, as opposed to having the end open. Well, red's not good for y'all, is it? With my red background. You can see on this zipper, when you have it completely closed, how the tops want to come apart. It's not going to happen to us with this project. I decided in the fall sometime to get 36-inch zippers, number 3s, and some really cute pulls. And the reason for this is I know you have lots of patterns, and of course you're going to want to get some of this new pattern I'm going to show you. Taylor's bag has 3 sizes in it. And no matter what size zipper you get, it's going to be wrong, because you're going to change your mind by the time you get to sew it. So since you have 36 inches to work with and extra pulls, and you know how to put the pulls on, you can, if you need 7 inches for one bag and 8 inches for another and 9 inches for another, then you still have some left over to do a little bit more. We do have black and white. This happens to be granite or gunmetal, whichever you want to call it, and off-white. And this works on some colorations. I like the black and white on others, on your clear colors. So what am I going to do with this? I don't know whether I'm through with that or not. I'm going to create a pattern that was designed by one of my young friends that I got to visit with some over the summer. Taylor is, well, I think she's 9 now. But Taylor made a bunch of Kleenex holders to raise money for South Louisiana when we had the flood a couple of years ago. And that's how I found out about her. And we got to be buddies. And the second year she did fundraising for Houston, making her Kleenex bags. Well, this particular Kleenex bag, her second year, has a pocket in it. And when she was telling me over the phone what she was doing with the pocket, I misunderstood her. She was making a vertical pocket, and the samples that I made a horizontal pocket. Well, I like her idea and she likes mine. So you have an extra little pocket with your Kleenex holders to put your sanitizer in, or you can put business cards or whatever you want to in the horizontal pocket. Some smaller phones may fit in there too. So this was how the pattern got started. So we took that same idea and created a flap on the front. There's a zipper pocket in the front, a zipper pocket in the back, and 3 different sizes. So it is a multi-sized. And so this one, to let you know how quick this goes together, This is the bag that I created this morning in a matter of an hour. I figured out all the math for you, so all you have to do is cut like the instruction say. And we have a flap like the Kleenex to get into the main pocket. We have a zipper pocket in the front and a zipper pocket in the back. So there's 2 zipper pockets and 1 open flap pocket. This happens to be the larger size. I can't quite get my big wallet in it, but it's not designed to carry everything you own. It's designed to tone down. And what I've done is used webbing at the for the strap. So, and with Valentine's coming on, I thought that was just the perfect fabric to show today. If you like this fabric, I haven't been in her store. I'm in Louisiana and she's out in Nevada somewhere. But Beth has this fabric as well. There's 3 different colorations of the hearts. Now, I got married on Valentine's Day, so hearts go all year long as far as I'm concerned. But I want to show you how easy it is to make that bag. And I have, what did I do with my red pieces? I am so organized, I forgot something that's probably in the other room. So I will talk through it. Okay. I chose to use black as the background for this because I don't need to use my pretty fabric on the inside. So I have black on the inside. It shows just a little bit at the top, and the darker color is probably better for clean. Doesn't show dirt as much as on some of your lighter fabrics. But you're going to take steamacine, and I have steamacine in the packages like this, or you can get it yardage, and you can see how long that is. So if you buy it by the package, make sure you keep tabs on this plastic piece because you can keep all your leftover little tidbits that you've cut away. You can keep in the bag to stay organized, and you have the instructions in case you need the instructions later on down the line. I'm using the light steamacine 2, because it's not as heavy and it won't make your fabric as cardboardy as some of the heavier steamacines. There's reasons for the heavier, there's reasons for the light. That's why they came out with different products. This is a paperback fusing medium, and you will cut, and there's instructions in the pattern, but cut your fusing medium slightly smaller than your fabric, and you will place this inside. I pulled this out of my scrap piece. So it's not the piece I was going to originally show you, but it's working. You want the piece to be slightly smaller all the way around so that when you press, you're not going to get the fusing medium on your ironing board or on your ironing surface. If you do get a little bit of gunk on your iron, there are iron clean sheets that make it easy to clean your iron. Don't wait till your iron's brown or black with all that gunk on it. Clean it pretty regular. I actually, because I use so much fusing, I have one iron that's used with fusing and another iron that used with good fabric so I don't get the fusible on my good fabric. And I try to keep everything separate. That kind of works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. So to use the steamacine, we will take the paper off one side and press. Make sure that the fusible is next to your fabric. You will press with a dry iron, peel the paper off, close your fabric, and then use steam to fuse this so it is one solid or a double layer, and that's what's given the bag the durability. We're not using any fleece or anything like that on this particular project. Now, there are 5 different pieces that you're going to cut in different sizes, and I've mathematically figured them out. Oh, I just found my pieces that were in the other room. They're right here under the computer. I covered myself up. So I'll do a little review. Here I've placed the fusible on the fabric, peel the paper off, and then fuse the layers together. So this is a folded edge, and the other 3 sides are cut edges. Okay. Now, this zipper technique is a little bit different than any of the other zipper techniques I've done. We have a folded fabric up here, so we're not going to have to turn anything under. So that fold is going to lay on top of the zipper tape. And you decide what you want to show more. You want the beige to show or you want the black to show? So I want the beige to show, and I'm going to put a decorative stitch on there that you can see. So I have stitched, this happens to be one of my go-to stitches. It's little loop-de-loos, and I've lengthened and narrowed the stitch. Notice that I have stitched without the slider. The slider's on the other end of my zipper tape. So I stitched this. I don't have any bumps to go around, and it's just nice and easy to stitch across there. I am then going to place this on top of the pocket, or that's the pocket on top of the front body. And I will stitch a second time right across here. So that stitching is going to be on top of the beige. It's going to show. If you want to use decorative thread, that's fine. On this particular instance, I decided to just use the black because I didn't want to detract from the hearts. Once you have stitched, you can then move the slider in the middle here and trim the excess off. So here's another one that is stitched. Now I have not put this on my backing. So the other black piece that I have, this one will come on. They'll be lined up around the edges there, and then we'll stitch on the beige. I left the slider in the center here to prove a point to you. Well, first of all, so I didn't lose the slider. But if I leave the slider in the middle, when I'm stitching, I'm going to have to go around it, or I'm going to have to lift my presser foot and shift it. And sometimes you get into trouble and you skip a stitch or something of that nature. So what I'm going to do when I get ready to sew this is pull the slider off. I will stitch this down, and I still have zipper tape on the other end that makes it easy for the slider to go on. If you have a cut edge of zipper coil, you can get the slider on. It's just easier if you have that tape. So remember, that part of the zipper is your friend. Normally what I do is stitch the 2 pieces in one. So I can keep the sliders way over here, stitch those down, then move the sliders in the position. Okay, now, so then we stack the layers together. You stack them and you put your strap on. So the strap is inserted at the top. I want to give you a couple of little ideas of some other bags that I've done using the same pattern. Ordinarily, I like to put a swivel hook on that I can put keys. And after you've made one of these bags and you see how easy it is, the tendency is not to look at the instructions. So this morning when I was making the heart bag, I got in a bit of a hurry and I forgot to put the swivel hook on this one. So this is going to have to survive without a swivel hook. But I have already put the swivel hook on the webbing so that when it goes to the bag, I'll have the swivel hook there. Sometimes I want to dress up the webbing, and this is a decorative stitch with decorative thread. You'll notice that I use the same decorative thread in the top as I did in the bottom, so it doesn't matter which side is up. If you are using some decorative threads, make sure you use the proper needle. I generally put a top stitching needle in. And I've used the decorative thread to stitch the zipper. It's also on the strap. This is my go-to color. It's the multicolored and the bright colors. And take a look at this little slider. This is the slider that's in the yard pieces of zipper, or the 36-inch zipper groups that we put together. Here's another, and I forgot to put change the bobbin, so the bobbin doesn't show, or the decorative thread doesn't show on the strap. But you know, if you don't tell anybody, they don't know. We're in a classroom scenario, so I'm telling you the good and the bad. So we have a little set there. Here's another. We also have the silver as well as the brass pulls. It's the little things that make a difference. Here we go, mixing some colors. And notice the lining was orange, so we're seeing the lining just a little bit of extra color there. Playing around, I decided to put an extra pocket on the top. So there's 2 pockets on the front and 1 on the back of this one. Once you get the technique down, you can just like play like forever. I decided this was kind of plain. So on another one, I used one of my embroidery designs in that smaller area. When you're doing a design, you need to raise the design slightly. This was centered. So by the time this bag gets stuff in it, the design is going to fall just a little bit. So make sure your design is up slightly, not perfectly in the center. Here, black and whites with a little bit of red stitching, red zippers. And so, as I mentioned, these are quick and easy to put together. It's Taylor's Bag is the name of it. Named it after my little friend Taylor. And it looks like I've already lost the pattern. Here we go. Quick, easy for beginners as well as the seasoned stitcher. I know lots of folks have been wanting to do things that are quick and instant gratification. So this is one of those things. You could even do a little bit of piecing down on this bottom pocket if you want to. Once you get started, you'll think of all sorts of things that you can do.
Perfect, Linda. And you're almost out of time. So do you want to talk about your vest challenge real quick?
Yes, I was just switching over to that.
Perfect.
We have a challenge that uses my vest pattern. The vest pattern is online, and it's listed under the patterns. These have been the covers of the pattern. It's a good basic. What you need to do is download the sheet from our website at gees.com, GHEES.com, and there's a list of things that you can incorporate into your challenge vest. There, you must use at least 3. But when you take a look at the list, it's really easy to do what's in there. You can put a zipper in there. It doesn't even have to work. You can do handwork, machine work, embroidery, piecing, quilting. I listed every kind of technique I could possibly think of. So go on our website to find out that information. Beth also has the information at her place. I did not mention my specials. And Beth, I have, just because this week is Valentine's week, we had put together a group of zippers that are all pinks, purples, and reds. So for a door prize, I'm going to give this collection to somebody. So when you're doing however you do door prizes, make sure you draw a second one for this.
Okay,
also,
perfect.
Only for y'all on Crazy Wednesdays, whatever you call this.
Wild Wednesdays Live.
Wild Wednesdays Live from now until, and it says this in the shopping area on online. If you buy a zipper, you will get a second one free. It'll be an identical zipper.
Perfect.
Okay, so make sure in the notes section, say that you saw me on Wednesdays Live, and any zipper you get, you will get a second one free. So it's a half price, BOGO.
Perfect.
Perfect time to collect. Thank you so much for having me, and
thank you for
I hope
joining
you have
us.
a fun time.
Perfect. And stay with us, Linda, because I have several questions to ask you at the very end.
Okie dokie.
Okay, we'll see you in a little bit. All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. So I want to just let you know that the code word for today is Valentine. So you can go ahead and type that into the comments if this is your first time joining us. The way that we pick the winners of the raffle prizes or door prizes is we put everybody's name in that puts the code word in, which is Valentine. And so just type that in, Valentine. We will pick winners from that list, and we will post it later today, probably, but for sure by tomorrow morning. But you must claim it by tomorrow night at midnight, I believe. Midnight, probably Arizona time. So make sure that if you are a winner, you check back and you let us know that you did see that you were a winner. And then we want you to make sure that you go to the Quilt Craft Sew Mall, because that's where you'll find all of the specials from today. And we have one more presenter today. We have Bobbi with Quilted Treasures.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm good, Bobbi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Okay. What I'm going to demo for you today is 3 different ways to do quilt as you go in small spaces. For those of you that are familiar with how we do business, we travel in a motorhome. It's 40 feet long and 102 inches wide, so I don't have a lot of space. So I've come up with a way of how I can do even full-size quilts. Now, if you follow my directions, you cannot make a bad quilt. You have to work at it. So what I've got for you today is this is a CD that shows you step by step. And this CD I came out with in, I think it was 2008 or something like that. It's been a while. So what I've done is also updated it. So when you get the CD, you will get 3 sets of directions. The first one is the basic technique that will actually go with the CD. After that, I have another set of directions that if you're using our lead line for stained glass or for pre-quilted blocks. So this is in case you cut things off that shouldn't be cut off, how you put the fabric back on to complete your project. And the third way is how to make a 2-sided quilt, which is actually much easier than it sounds. And all of these will come with written directions, diagrams, and you'll have those. The other important thing is you have me. After you've got any of these directions, if you have a problem, contact me because I am your helpline, and you can always reach me. So first of all, we're going to talk about when we're doing our quilting. Now, when you do your piecing, I always like to take, after I have my first 2 blocks done, I press them. You know the difference between pressing and ironing? Pressing, you just press down with the iron. Ironing, you can stretch it, so we don't want to do that. So once you've pressed your blocks down, you're going to put them together. If one is not the same size as the other, you know how to tell them which one is right. We don't cut one down to match the other. What you're going to do is turn them over. You're going to measure your seam allowances. 1 or more of your seam allowances are wrong. It may even be on both of them. So by measuring those, and then as you piece your blocks, You just press them, stack them up, and eyeball them, and now you got a 50-50 chance of making a perfect quilt. It's all in making sure that they're the same. Don't worry if they're supposed to be a 7-inch block and they're 7 1/4, as long as every one of them is 7 1/4. So it's your own 7-inch block. Now we're going to take and we're going to layer them together. We're going to take our backing, our batting, and our top. We're going to lay them down. Now, how big do I want my batting and backing? What you're going to do is take the size of your finished block. You're going to add 1.5 inches to all 4 sides of it. Then you're going to add 1.5 inch to all 4 sides. So now we're going to end up with a piece of batting and backing that's bigger than our block. And it's going to be sufficient enough that we'll be trimming them as we go along. So once we've done that, we're going to quilt. I usually recommend that you stay about a finger's width away from the edge of your block. That way there you don't have to pull out stitches. I am not a fan of reverse sewing. So if you start pulling out stitches, you're going to weaken that as well. So this way here, we keep it nice and strong, and we're going to do our quilting. Now on this one here, what I did is I used masking tape. You can use masking tape this way and the other way so that you have a crisscross, free motion, whatever you normally do. Important, after we finish quilting them, we're going to press them again. Flat. Now, the other thing that most people do is you just put your blocks together and you do a 1/4 inch. What if your blocks are not exactly even? So if you're off just 1/8 of an inch, you now have made a mistake of a 1/4 inch. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and find the center of the block. Now I have 2 rulers here I'm going to show you. This one here is black. This one here, whoops, being stubborn, is turquoise. The reason for the 2 different rulers is because you use the turquoise on a dark fabric, and it shows. We use the black on a light fabric. See how much better that is? So what we're going to do is, because I started with an 8-inch square, I'm going to find the center. So we all know the center is 4. And to make it a 7-inch finished square, I'm going to measure back 3.5 inches to the right or left, mark the top and the bottom. Notice how my ruler has numbers on top and bottom. Then I'm going back to the center, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark it on the top and on the bottom. I'm going to turn my ruler, and I'm going to take and draw a straight line between those 2 points. So if you use a tiny ruler, it's not going to be as accurate as if you use a larger one. So once I've done that, I've drawn my line, I'm just going to take and slip this over so my line is under my 1/4 inch mark. And then I'm going to do a dotted line. So I've done a solid line for my stitching line and a dotted line for my potential cutting line. And I'm going to repeat this on the other side. Now, to make sure that I get a perfect right angle, I'm going to take my block and I'm going to put that ruler right on that line. Now I have to have a perfect right angle when it stays up there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide my ruler over to the edge. I'm doing it backwards, so I have to stop for a minute here. And I'm going to take and find my middle point, and I'm going to measure out on both sides, mark the top and the bottom. Now this time I might be marking it in the batting. That's okay. I'm going to turn my ruler. I'm going to draw a solid line, and that's going to be my stitching line. And I'm going to move that over so that my 1/4 inch is on that, and I'm going to do a dotted line. And if you look back on your blocks, once you do them, if they aren't all exactly a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you'll see why your quilts are not coming out straight, because you've measured in and not centered it and measured out. You can also fix things if they get a little askew, or if you don't have a lot. Because we're sewing through everything, you can use 1/8 of an inch, and it's going to be just as strong as if you used a 1/4 inch, because you're sewing right through everything. Now that we've got the blocks pressed, it's quilted, we're going to join them together. So I'm going to take a piece of sashing, and I've done a basting stitch on this. You don't have to do that, but I find that if handling it, it'll open up on me. So you're going to see how it meets in the middle. I'll bring it a little closer to you. And this side, I have 2 edges. I'm going to take my block, and I'm going to put the sashing down right on that solid line. Now we're going to think the way a hand piecer does, not a machine quilter. Machine quilters tend to go from one end of the fabric to the other. If I do that, I'm still going to have to pull out stitches, so I don't like to do that. So I'm going to start where this right angle is right here, and I'm going to back stitch to lock that stitch in, and I'm going to top stitch till I get to the other right angle, and then I'm going to back stitch again. So this is what it's going to look like. And I can lay this right on that line and make sure it's perfectly straight. So if this is a perfect 7 and this is a perfect 1, and I've done that by cutting a 2-inch strip of fabric and folding it back to make a 1-inch sashing, it has to be the perfect size. Now I'm going to take my other block and I can turn it around to make sure, let me bring this up a little higher here, to make sure that I've got going in the right direction. Then I'm going to take and cut on that dotted line, only that particular side of the block. And that is my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now this is important. You're going to take your batting and backing. You want to get it out of the way. Oops. We're going to bring it up, and we're going to lay that right on that other line. Now look what else I can do. I can take my ruler and I can put it on both sides and make sure that line is perfectly straight. Now I'm going to take and top stitch again from the right angle to the other right angle. I now have 3 out of my 4 seams done. And it will look like this. Now turn it over, and on the back, I've already trimmed my B block to a 1/4 inch. I'm going to take my batting and I lay it down, and I want to put it right into that groove, and I take a pair of shears and I trim them. So if your batting is like this, the new piece goes in and butts right up to it. We don't want it to overlap. So once they butt up, I now have the extra, oops, here, that's where the batting got caught up in there. I have the extra batting and backing now. I'm going to fold over, and I like to take and put that right into that stitching line. Now, when you get used to this, you can do it machine stitching on the back, but I like to do it the first time when you're starting by hand, because we're going to lift up the backing only on the ends till we get to where that right angle is. And we're going to stitch backing to backing. That's going to make it so that we can open up this side seam, either one, the way we did when we joined the A and the B block. By putting the sashing on, it makes it an A block. By cutting it, it makes it a B block. When I can turn any one of the 4 sides over, it's called a unisex block, because it can be an A or B. So just follow the directions on how the designer tells you to put your blocks together and what the sequence is, but do this step. And when you get finished, instead of having a top, you'll have a quilt. Now, once we've sewn this, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to repeat it on another set of blocks. And then we want to take and we want to put them together. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to treat one as an A block. So that's going to have the sashing stitched down, and the B block's going to be trimmed. Not only can I make sure that my lines are straight, but when it goes across, I can put my ruler on the top and on the bottom to make sure this crosses beautifully. I'm going to put a pin in each one of these. Now, if I'm only doing 4 blocks, I can start in the center, go across that, and end up out at the edge. Then I go back and do it the opposite direction. Can't always do that because we may want to do long rows of them. So when we're doing long rows of them, we're going to take and pin them. And what happens is all our machines feed through, And if you find that they're not lining up, it's because you're either pushing or holding the fabric back. It should be naturally fed through with your feed dogs. So what I do is as I get to the next row, before I get too close, I make sure that it's not puckering through here. And I'm going to take and use what we call quilter's fudge, which means I can ease that into it. So make sure you're obviously aware of all of this here as you're going along. So you might want to ease that in. So once you cross here, it's going to be perfect. And then keep on going. So I can do a whole row of them. I can join them together. When I turn it over, this is my extra batting, which is a little easier to see on this sample here. Then I've trimmed it. I'll bring this up a little higher. I've trimmed it and see how that fits right in there. And then I take and fold my backing, which has been sewn together like this. And now I can fold this over and put that together so that it looks like one piece of fabric on the back. It's very simple to do. When I developed this, I had a migraine headache, and that's why it's so easy. Because if you can do it with a headache, you can do it any other way. So this is what the finished piece is. And what's nice about this is I've got a 1/4 inch line all the way around here. So all I have to do is trim it and put my binding on, and I've got a perfectly square quilt, which if I'm doing a king size quilt is marvelous because you don't have to worry about measuring the top, measuring the bottom, laying down on the floor, or bending over a table. So I can do full size quilts. And I don't see them hanging till they're hanging in the shows with 20 or 30,000 close friends coming by. So on the back, it looks like one piece. So that's the basic technique. And when we originally did that, we recommended that you use a square, like a 4-inch square, a 6-inch square, whatever size your block was. Well, when we modified it, now you can make them rectangle because when you measure them, you find the center and measure out. So you're not limited to any particular size block, and you're not limited to just squares. Now, the other thing I was talking about is what happens if you cut the second set of directions. What if we cut this off and this is supposed to be an A block? What we're going to do is we're going to put our sashing on right where that line is. At the same time on the back, we're going to take an extra piece of backing fabric and put it right sides together. And then we're going to stitch it from the front. Then when we put our other piece together, like, whoops, here's the other double one here. Like this, when I turn it over, I'm going to have that extra flap for my backing, but I'm not going to have any batting. So what we do is we take a strip of batting and you lay it right down in there. And like I said, trim it so it butts right up to the other one. And then you take that new flap that you've sewn on and you're just going to fold it over just as low as there. You don't even have to stitch the batting down because it's not going to go anywhere. It's nicely snug in between the creases there. So those are the first two directions. So the standard quilt as you go, and then how to fix it. Or if you have, like we had these pre-quilted blocks that had no extra fabric on any one of the 4 sides. So therefore we had to keep doing it. Another thing is, if you want to use a 1-inch sashing, you can also take and cut your, measure out a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. When I'm measuring about my one with a 2-sided, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch, and I'll show you why. I've started with these little pre-quilted blocks when I do the class so that we can get finished in the 3-hour class. So once we've done this, we're still going to find the center. We're going to measure back and mark the top and the bottom, and the same thing on this side over here. We're going to draw our straight line. We're going to draw our dotted line. We're going to trim on the dotted line. So that's a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. Now, similar to what you saw earlier in the program, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front and the back fabric. My block's going to be seen from both sides. And now I'm going to take and stitch. I use a 1/4 inch foot and stitch right on that dotted on the 1/4 inch line. Then I'm going to open it up, and I like to press it. And see how I have this nice little space in here? Then I'm going to take a piece of batting that's already been pre-cut, and I'm going to tuck it in and butt it right up to the other piece of batting from my block. Now here I've run a basting stitch through it so that it doesn't get distorted as I build my block. Next, I'm going to do that. Here's the one that we just did. I'm going to take a 7.5 inch strip. I'm going to put them right sides together, and I'm going to stitch my 1/4 inch. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind is now would be a good time to make sure that either this lines up with this, or you're going to allow for it when you're trimming. So once I've done that, I'm going to put my batting in, again like this. I've tucked it in, I've done my top stitch, and you can see how it's growing, and it looks the same. Now, once I've done that and gone all the way around, it's going to look like this. It's similar to making a log cabin. So I've done a 4.5 inch, 7.5, 7.5, and then a 10.5 to make this size block. We're going to take and press them, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to measure from this center line out, and I am leaving a 1/2 inch this time instead of a 1/4 inch. So I do that on both sides. And because the fabrics are the same and the batting is the same, those lines should be exactly in the same place. Now I'm going to take my, let me pull this apart here. I'm going to take my sashing. Now I've done the same thing here. I have a 2-inch piece of fabric. I fold it back in the middle so that I have 2 identical pieces. I'm going to take this first piece and I'm going to lay that down right on that line. And then I'm going to pin it. Trying not to pin it to myself. Now, when I turn it over, I should be able to take this other piece and put that right on the line, and I'm going to pin that. And look what happens up at the top here. These 2 pieces turn out to match up perfectly, and that's a way we can double check. So that means the line on this side and the line on the other side were exactly in the same place. I put my fold right on those lines, and now I have it. Now the reason I cut this a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch instead of a 1/4 inch, is because I don't have to worry about any extra batting in here. So what I can do is, this is a 1/2 inch. I have a 1-inch piece. I'm going to take the other block, and I'm going to, I'll do this with just one side up. I'm going to slip this into here and put it on the line there. And I know from what I did before that both of those in the back are going to line up perfectly. And now I have no break in my quilt at all. So this is one that's finished. I can do the same thing. I can line it up with a ruler to make sure it's straight. When I'm joining my pieces together, I can make sure that cross piece is the same. So I can have all of that done. And then this one here is the one I did using the lead line. And I made these 4 blocks. That's a full day class that we do in the morning, and you do join them together in the afternoon. So you do stained glass in the morning and quilt as you go in the afternoon. And I am available if you have any questions. We are having a special on this. Normally it would be $35.95 to get the CD and all 3 sets of directions. We're having a special of $28.75, and you'll get them. All of our patterns that are not discounted patterns are 20% off. We also have a new section of cut fabric that we have 6.5 inch squares, 4.5 inch squares, fat quarter packs, yard packs, and half yard packs, as well as what we call minis. We call them mini marbles. They're 9 by 11 approximately. And we have those in 12, 24, and 36 packages of different colors. And we also have, for a limited time, Quilt Shop quality fabric. It's under non-Quilter's Treasure fabric. That's only $6.50 a yard, and it's all high quality fabric. And we have those available for you as well. And our special is a $25 gift certificate for the drawing for today. So I hope you'll enter it in. And if you have any questions, or after you get the CDs and the directions, if you have any questions, I'm always available.
Perfect, Bobbi. That was fabulous. Thank you for teaching us those techniques. It's always good to add the more techniques. The more techniques you have, the better it is for your quilting experience.
Well, the nice thing about this is you can't make a mistake. If you keep measuring and you make sure everything is the right size as you go along, it has to come out perfect.
Perfect. I need it to be quick and easy. All right, Ron, let's bring all the girls back on. Did we lose Monica? There she is.
Not here. I'm back.
Okay, perfect. All right, I have a few questions for you girls. What, Monica? They want to know what the name of the sign with the quilt with the plus signs was. There was a quilt behind you with plus sign.
With the plus sign. Oh,
yeah.
I have to go back then.
That's okay. I'll tell them to give you a call.
Yes, that is. Let me walk that way.
So if you have any questions for any of these presenters, you can give them a call. You can go to the Quilt Craft Sew Mall and you can find all their specials. Oops, you're frozen, Monica. Or you're walking really slow, or you're frozen.
Yeah,
technology, you gotta love it.
She's not even in a cold place.
All right. Yeah. You're going to have to work with your internet people to get better internet. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. What's the name of it?
I can't hear you guys.
Oh, okay. All right. We're going to go to the next one.
To go get it for me.
Okay. Linda, do the zippers come with more than one pull?
The 36-inch ones, yes. I think there's two different colors. There's a black and a white. Well, there's a bunch of colors online, but you get 8 pulls with it.
Perfect. And then does this technique that you taught us today, does that work with any zippers, or do you have to have a special zipper?
You could do that technique with any zipper.
Okay.
You know, not just the small ones. You can do, I've done it on a couple of the other patterns on the pockets. Yeah, it's
perfect. Perfect. Okay. And we don't have too many questions today, so I think we can go ahead and wrap it up unless you guys have anything else you'd like to add.
We failed to mention the piping class that's coming up.
Oh, yeah. We've got a piping class Linda and I are doing.
And there's piping on this little quilt, just to give you an idea. But it's an easy way to do corded pipe, and lots of tips and tricks, whether you're making it on a quilt or putting it in a garment. But that's going to be on February 24th.
Perfect. All right. So we would really, really like to thank all of the presenters for donating the different door prizes. We have a $25 gift certificate from Bobbi. Monica's donated the Baffling Your Quilts, which is a fabulous book. And Raylene, who was going to be on but isn't on because of an emergency that came up, she's also donating door prizes. So we've got lots of fun stuff. Linda's donating zippers, all kinds of fun stuff. So I just want to remind everybody to go ahead and join us every Wednesday at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Because we have fabulous vendors that are lined up for every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And you can always go to our YouTube channel and watch it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Bye-bye.